Welcome back to another episode of The Curious Consumer. I am so excited to be here today with Stacey Hartnett, the Senior Vice President of Marketing at Chomps. If you don't know Chomps, you're living under a rock at this point. Chomps is a massive meat stick company and actually has just expanded into an entirely new category, so we're going to be talking about that today. But Stacey, I would love for you to quickly introduce yourself and a little bit about the company.
Of course. Hi, Jenna. So thank you so much for having me on. Chomps is a family-founded, mission-driven company just focused on providing real food with high-quality ingredients that are convenient for the modern consumer and how we need to live our lives today. We have had a lot of success, so we're very proud of that, expanding into over 50,000 doors today and 22 million households. So it's been this phenomenal journey for me. So my background is I started at Chomps 7 years ago now as employee 10 and has just continued to be able to grow with the company.
You've joined at such an incredible time, I would imagine, seeing like the growth in the time that you've been there. The meat stick category has blown up, and I would say largely due in part to Chomps. I feel like Chomps really took this category from the niche gas station thing that your dad would pick up on a road trip to something that everyone is bringing as in their day-to-day routine. Could you talk a little bit about that? How do you think Chomps did that?
I think it was a category that has a lot of nostalgia involved, but the legacy incumbent brands weren't thinking about the consumer today, the consumer's growing focus on high quality, real ingredient foods and what they were looking for. And the consumer today really wants to understand what they're putting into their body, how it's influencing their life, not today, but the longevity over time, how it's feeding and fueling themselves and other people. And it was highly dominated by men. And so the brand really focused on being accessible to anyone. Gender neutral, you had this male-dominated category. We didn't set out to be a female brand by any means, but just something that was accessible and also fun and bold and just something to be a true solution in someone's routine. That brought a lot of incremental consumers to the category. I wasn't a meat snack consumer before I found out about Chomps. It just wasn't on my grocery list. And so really understanding what the product is, trying it, it's delicious, and understanding that this is a totally new solution to my routine, to my family's routine, has really driven a lot of that success.
And now, as you said, because of all this incremental growth to the category, there's just been like an explosion of so many brands that have done something similar to the stage that Chomps has set of this more gender neutral branding and getting more people into the category. But Chomps still remains on top in a lot of ways and still remains one of the biggest innovators in the category. So I want to talk a little bit about that today, because while beef meat sticks have really taken off, Chomps just last month launched chicken sticks, and I want to hear a little bit more about that launch. Why was now the time to get into chicken?
The simplest way to say it is that Americans already love chicken, and it was highly underrepresented in the meat snack category. So the average American consumes about 100 pounds of protein a year, and it was 1% of our category. So really, I think it's a pretty clear white space. I think that happens for a few different reasons. It's incredibly hard to make. And so I won't go into the food science aspect of it, but it was something that our founders had passion around up to 12 years ago. This is a 12-year in the making product. It was particularly hard to make, upholding our promise to our consumers of not adding sugar, not taking shortcuts in the production, not adding artificial ingredients. It was a labor of love figuring that out. Along with the category incumbents, there's still a little bit of an ick factor in meat, right? And so in meat sticks, the approachability, the familiarity, the lightness of chicken is just something that we continue to think is going to be familiar for our consumer to now bring into a portable format for them.
So wild that it took so long to formulate? I know you don't want to get into the food science, but like what, just like in short, I guess, what are some of the attributes that make it a more challenging protein to work with?
It's moisture levels,
Okay.
it's all of that within kind of the cooking process, and then to be able to do that and deliver that in a shelf-stable format without all of the ick and the added things into it, just added to some of the complexities.
Very interesting. There's something really interesting about the timing of this because obviously protein, I don't need to say this, our listeners know, everybody knows protein is everything right now. With that, I actually think a lot more consumers are turning to beef than they have historically. There has been a big shift. I know the carnivore diet got more popular in the past few years, and beef as a protein source has become more popular in a lot of ways recently. So it's really interesting to see this pushback from the other end of like, well, there's still this other protein here. What did the consumer demand look like that informed this innovation?
We do have turkey as a poultry option today, but what we were seeing and what we're still seeing from consumers is balance in the protein that they're eating. And so what this also allows is for consumers to enjoy our product if they're not having red meat every day, or if there's restriction in their diet, just gives more versatility, different nutritional benefits within the different proteins. And so you're seeing more balance. And then chicken also allows us to go into a new occasion. And so one of our flavors is a savory breakfast. Thinking about kind of consumer demands, we were seeing consumers like sneak a Chomps in the morning and like, oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm like gonna have it in the morning. And so we really wanted to give consumers permission to do that into a new day part. And just the lightness and the approachability of the chicken protein overall made perfect sense for that morning occasion.
I do feel like I cringe at the idea of someone eating a meat stick at 9 a.m., but I'm like, oh, a chicken sausage is part of your breakfast? There's something about that. I don't know why it is perceived that way, but it is. And that is such a smart consumption occasion to tap into if you were already seeing consumers, as you said, like sneaking it in, especially as an on-the-go option, because I do find, like, at least anecdotally, a lot of consumers are eating these on-the-go protein products in the morning because that's when they're in a rush, and we've been told so many times to have a high-protein breakfast. So really interesting to see you pivot into that use case. I feel like there's this interesting unsaid battle of the proteins. Maybe this is Chick-fil-A has done this to me with their classic campaign of the cow being like, eat more chicken. I'm curious how Chomps is thinking about both of these product lines existing at the same time and one not cannibalizing the other or not polarizing consumers into feeling one way about one set of products over the other. I'm curious like how you're thinking about these two lines coexisting when there is that protein battle in some ways.
It's one we have a hypothesis around. I think we have to launch and really just learn from consumers how they're going to respond and react. As much as we're looking at performance every single day, we still remind ourselves, okay, we have to wait, let the consumer tell us how they're going to naturally integrate it into their routines. We assume some level of cannibalization. With our product, we see a lot of pantry stocking and you have your staples, but a lot of consumers look for versatility and just fun in snacking. It's not so serious. And so healthy products, being able to just try and change it up and switch it out is interesting for us. So we thought a lot about that in the flavors we were also bringing compared to our existing portfolio is how do we give them something new? And then chicken also just takes on flavor very differently than beef. So it's allowing us to tap into a lot of different flavor profiles that we weren't able to do in beef. So one of ours is Nashville Hot. A lot of consumers have been loving that, like heat, that fun, that flavor, that lightness. So it's in product development and flavor, and variety really is where we see it playing a role. We have our trial pack, which we have 2 of each flavor just to allow people to sample. It's like 4x a very ambitious forecast. Like people just are really excited to try all of them, and then they'll find their favorite and come back and stock up.
I would imagine that it would absolutely kill it at launch, especially with the variety pack, because as you said, like a huge point of differentiation for chicken is these new flavor profiles. So when they're already so loyal to this brand for their everyday meat stick, they're probably really excited to see some new innovation from the same brand and know that it's the same values, even if it's a different protein source. I just love that concept in general of like, we're not just taking a different protein and like slapping all the same principles onto it. It's no, this is going to be not only different flavors, but also a different use case occasion. I'm interested too, like how you see chicken particularly fitting into just different consumer trends. Obviously, we mentioned protein, clean ingredients, but there's been a lot of conversation around like how GLP-1s are impacting this space. And I'm interested if there were certain consumers or certain trends that you think apply to chicken a little bit better even than they might have applied to beef.
With chicken, I think it is a continued understanding of the nutrition profile. The macros on it are insane. I mean, it's 12 grams of protein, 80 calories, and zero sugar.
And how does that stack up to beef, Harrison?
Slightly different, so 10 grams in beef. That just continues to be, I think, a macro trend of protein in consumers every day. You mentioned GLP-1. We've seen that as a macro trend happening where it comes into our product portfolio and our category in a big way. I feel like we don't give this item enough love, but we also launched this month a chili lime flavor with Walmart. Chili lime beef was, one, it's delicious, but it's our first citrus flavor profile. And one of the insights that we learned from GLP-1 is that consumers kind of seek out acidity. If you're on GLP-1, that citrus acidity flavor is something that consumers may crave as part of that GLP-1 kind of response and balance in food. That insight was a little nudge for us to really solidify trying that flavor out as well.
I had no idea actually that is like a flavor profile that consumers are seeking out on GLP-1s. Really cool to see this launch happen in real time pretty much, because it's still launching and we're still seeing some of the waves of the chicken launch. Our listeners know that I don't eat meat products, but I am a big fan of Chomps and everything you guys have done for this category and cleaning up the category and making it more approachable and more of a lifestyle brand than meat sticks had ever been. Really grateful to have you on. I know so many of our listeners are Chomps fans themselves, so this must have been really cool. And if they didn't know about chicken yet, now they do. And where else can our listeners find Chomps?
For now, go to chomps.com and Target, and then starting next month, you're going to see this roll out to a lot of other retailers, and so you'll be able to find it in your store pretty soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stacey. This was wonderful.
Welcome back to another episode of The Curious Consumer.
Welcome back. It feels like it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. We missed a week, right? We missed a week.
We missed a week when we were in Austin.
Doing an offsite. It was very fun. We learned a lot about ourselves. We learned a lot about the business, and we have a lot of changes coming. And we do have a Google form for feedback, which we would really love for everybody to fill out. We'll include it in the show notes. We would love to get your thoughts on what you think about Express Checkout and where do you think it should go.
Well, the form specifically actually is about the podcast. So if you are currently listening to this, I am sure you have some thoughts about how you wish this sounded instead, what you wish we were talking about. One of the biggest questions we have, and I'll just spoiler it, because if you even just email us, that would be amazing. You don't have to fill out the form.
Yes.
We're really curious if people are more interested in hearing roundups of every news item the way that we've been doing on the podcast, or if you would prefer more of one deep dive on a larger story and we bring in experts to talk about that story and we've researched it a little bit more. So it's really this idea of a lineup of many topics that we kind of yap about, which is what we're doing right now, versus a deep dive into one topic. We're very curious what you think about that. We're leaning towards the deep dive on one topic because we have so many awesome people in our network who are experts on a range of subjects, and we think it'd be really interesting. So would love to hear your thoughts. All that being said,
Hit us up.
we're very excited to get into a week of a lot of news. If you feel like you missed out on having an episode of Curious Consumer last week and want to know what the news was, we will link our newsletter edition below where you can catch up on all the news from last week. But this week, we are kicking things off with something I have been observing lately, that 2 news stories this week really sparked me to write about. And that thing is L-theanine. L-theanine, if you're unaware, is an amino acid. It's a non-protein amino acid, and it's found naturally in the tea plant, which also, fun fact, there's only one kind of tea plant. Different teas are just made by processing the tea plant differently or growing that tea plant in different regions, but it's all the same tea plant, which is Camellia sinensis. But L-theanine is found naturally. It's an amino acid found naturally in tea plant, and you might be most familiar with it because L-theanine is often found now in a lot of supplements. It's also found now in a lot of beverages. And so we were interested mostly in this week is this pairing that I've been seeing a ton of caffeine with L-theanine into these productivity beverages.
So 2 stories that got this story kicked off was Pepsi's iced tea brand Pure Leaf. They launched their first ever functional sparkling line, Mental Focus, with around 70 milligrams of caffeine and added L-theanine. These are the 2 main callouts on the package. They come in 2 flavors. And then this same week, a creator-founded brand called New Tonic. It's a productivity drink. They raised $6 million at a $60 million valuation on the back of their L-theanine and caffeine stack.
Those were the 2 big headlines from this week, which also is interesting because one of those is PepsiCo, which is a massive brand betting on this combination of L-theanine and caffeine. And another one is a startup, which is betting on this combination of L-theanine and caffeine. But we've also seen a recent string of many more of this same combination. So Neuro is an energy gum and mint brand built on the same combination. They just returned to Shark Tank last month. They became the first company in the show history actually to come back after rejecting a deal and then secured an investment with Daniel Lubutsky from Kind, which is incredible. And last week we got samples of this new product called Lamb Beverages, which is L-theanine coffee syrup. So it's not a caffeine and L-theanine product, but the idea is you add your L-theanine coffee syrup to your coffee. So that creates this combination. And so we're seeing all this happening. And I was like, where did this come from? What's going on? So as I said, L-theanine was discovered a long time ago in the tea plant. It was originally described anecdotally as this feeling that people had when they drink green tea, which is like this alertness that isn't jittery as opposed to coffee. So then in the 80s and 90s, scientists started studying it and they were able to link L-theanine to alpha brainwave activity that showed it actually counteracted some of caffeine's stimulant edge. By the 90s, a Japanese ingredient supplier was able to mimic the enzymatic process that naturally produces L-theanine in the tea plant. So it was able to be used as a standalone ingredient and supplement. That ingredient that was made by this Japanese scientist is called suntheanine. That's the brand. And it's still the dominant form on almost every label of a supplement or beverage or whatever product that adds L-theanine. So that's wild that it's like such a monopoly on this ingredient.
Yeah.
So clearly this isn't all that new. And actually something you found was this article from 2009 showing how L-theanine was supposed to be the big cool ingredient back then.
Right. I mean, speaking of PepsiCo, Gatorade came out with a Focus line alongside the iconic,
infamous
now, Tiger Woods, the golfer. Sobe water, which, my God, do I miss that drink. They had a Focus line. There was some other waters. But this article from 2009, like, it was titled "The New Beverages with L-theanine Come into Focus." Focus and concentration has been a point of discussion in beverages for a long time. So like a lot of trends, like a lot of ingredients, this wasn't really new. But the biggest thing that we've sort of uncovered is the market was not ready for that yet. The ingredient was, consumers weren't. It was too niche.
Just saying this will help you focus or this has L-theanine in
Right.
it is meaningless to the average consumer. L-theanine then, after trying to have these beverage launches that focused on the focus element, that didn't really land. So L-theanine was relegated to, as I said, this like sleep supplement side, because it's much easier to think as a consumer of the idea of this helps me calm down. That's something that we're told happens with magnesium or melatonin or chamomile. And so L-theanine was just added into that bucket because it's a much simpler concept than this idea of like focused alertness, which is obviously oxymoronic. Like it's a harder thing to understand. So it was relegated just to these sleep supplements. And a lot of really well-known sleep supplements built their sleep stack on L-theanine. And it shouldn't have been able to make its way out of the sleep aisle, in my opinion. Once something is in the sleep aisle, being able to have consumers then shift their understanding to, this isn't going to make me sleepy, this is going to help me with my focus and alertness, is a really large challenge. I don't think there's any single brand that could have done that on their own. PepsiCo has all the money in the world. Gatorade had all the money in the world. Their Tiger Woods collaboration flopped.
Right.
What I think was the differentiating factor that made the market ready is matcha. So we're here in 2026. Matcha has been skyrocketing over the past 2 years. In the shortest time, it went from this niche Japanese ritual to a fully mainstream beverage. You can find it at Jack in the Box. That blew my mind. I knew Dunkin' and Starbucks.
So random.
I know. I knew Dunkin' and Starbucks had matcha, but then I was looking into other quick service retailers that had matcha on their menu. And if Jack in the Box has it on their menu, it's officially ubiquitous.
Oh, yeah.
So matcha is everywhere now. And what matcha did is, because it naturally contains L-theanine as a shade-grown tea, it gave consumers an understanding of, when I drink matcha, I have this feeling that's different than when I drink coffee. I feel alert but not anxious. I feel alert but not jittery. And once they could identify that feeling, it became a lot easier for people to add L-theanine to other products and have consumers understand this is how you feel when you have a matcha.
Right. Exactly. And I the other side of that too is you pair that consumer understanding from the matcha with this just broader wellness trend of people generally understanding and desiring new types of ingredients and new types of functions that make them feel a certain way that isn't necessarily strictly from a pharmacy. It leans into these brands being able to launch and already have the education component down. People know that makes them feel good, or at least they trust that the brand says, focus, great, I want focus. I need something more than just a cup of coffee or an energy drink. I definitely think alongside the magnesium and the protein, this will be a very prominent ingredient in a lot more products going forward.
Absolutely. And consumers, it's as you said, it's also this wellness narrative, because consumers understand now that they can have more control over the effect that certain products that they intake have on their body. So what I mean by that is, like, I think in the past we just accepted, I'll have a coffee and I'll be jittery, and that's just that. And now there are all of these different alternatives out there to, yes, coffee, but so many other supplements that have given consumers this sense of control. I don't have to accept that I won't get enough protein in my diet if I'm vegetarian. I don't have to accept that I won't get enough fiber in my diet if I'm focusing on protein. Supplements have taught consumers, or today's supplement culture has taught consumers, that there's always a way to get the outcome that you want from packaged products. And so now they're like, well, I don't like the problem that I feel jittery from caffeine, so there must be a supplement to fix that. And lo and behold, there is. So I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot more innovation with brands putting L-theanine into their caffeine products. We'll also just see L-theanine everywhere, but in general, I think that cult combo of caffeine plus L-theanine is going to become increasingly popular, especially, and we're going to do a deep dive on this. I think,
excited.
On this new wave that we've been seeing of Adderall alternatives, things marketed as Adderall alternatives, which legally I'm like, Are you even allowed to do that? But point being, there are a lot of new beverage products mostly, or just supplements that are coming out saying that they are like so helpful for focus. You could actually ditch your ADHD medication and use them instead. This is going to be a space where L-theanine will thrive as well, and a few other ingredients. So that's another episode that we'll be excited to chat about. Yeah.
I miss when better living through pharmacology meant actual pharma and not just something I buy at like a Kroger.
I know. It's kind of interesting, but it is more accessible. That's a plus.
Or more expensive.
It depends. If you have insurance, it's more expensive. If you don't have insurance, I'm sure it's significantly cheaper to buy a product than a drug without insurance. But that's all an aside. I think, last thing I want to mention on this story is I just think that the way that Pure Leaf launched their mental focus tea was wild. It's a dual partnership with Jordan Childs, who's the Olympic gold medalist athlete. Incredible. Amazing. But usually you like stop there. Like usually you find a really cool human to partner with and you're like, that's all we need. No, they went one step further, and it's also launched in partnership with Brick, as in the new technology that people have been using. It's like this plastic thing that you put on your fridge and it locks you out of your phone. So it's a tool that consumers are using to lock their phones so that they don't go on their phones. It's become like this new understanding of digital focus and like, what do people say? Analog life.
Oh yeah.
So it's this partnership with like an Olympic athlete and then also a device that gets you off your phone. They're really like trying to rub in the idea of like, this is about being alert like an athlete, and it's also about being focused like somebody who has a brick. Like it's really like maybe too elaborate. Like it's like the storytelling like doesn't feel cohesive. But I just thought it was interesting.
It's very big brand coded.
It's very big brand. They're like, what if we just slap these things together?
Like it's creative-ish, I guess. We'll see what happens. We'll see if people go for it. They could have just launched a matcha in a can, called it quits. I mean, they might already have L-theanine in their green tea SKUs.
Yeah, and they're just calling it this. Other thing I would add is this is another place to watch out for function washing, because I want to say you need at least 150 milligrams to feel anything. I will double check that. But if something just says that it has L-theanine in it, like it might not actually be doing anything. So check. Yeah.
So much fun. Let's move on to our next story. Also beverage related and also maybe function washing related. Armra, the colostrum brand, they just launched, and honestly, this feels like the final boss of soda, colostrum soda. It's coming in 4 flavors, and apparently each can delivers the same amount of colostrum that 1 scoop of the brand's powdered supplement that they're really known for gives you. And I said in the newsletter that this feels like we're vibe coding soda.
Yes.
It just feels like we're like, what can we do now? What's hot in 2 different areas, and let's just put them together.
Stick them together.
Colostrum
exactly.
soda. And Armor's been, I mean, they're probably one of the biggest colostrum brands on the market, at least one of the most popular ones, or at least the one that has popularized the idea of colostrum and that you need it, and that it's a cure-all for everything from gut health to fixing your skin barrier. They're doing probably couple $100 million in annual revenue. They're national across multiple retailers. They've had exclusive partnerships with Erewhon, because of course they did, to make a colostrum smoothie, which like I remember talking to someone who's not in the CPG world about colostrum, and they're like, colostrum?
Can you clarify why that's shocking?
So colostrum is highly nutrient dense milk that is produced by mammals. In this case, it's cows, but also humans during pregnancy, during the first, first few days of birth. I think people call it liquid gold. It's high in protein, high in a lot of nutrients. It's like the nectar of the gods, basically, is a good way to put it. And that might be where the term comes from. It's manna from heaven. It's got everything you need.
Yeah, I mean, it's breast milk. All milk, all dairy milk is breast milk, but it's like it's It's the earliest breast milk, basically, from any mammal. In this case, as you said, it's a cow. What's kind of sad about it to me, though, is it is literally critical for calf development, and we're just taking it from them, which is kind of sad. But that aside, I won't get on my like animal welfare boat. But what's interesting about colostrum is nobody knew what the heck it was a few years ago, and it's truly single-handedly was Armra with a massive marketing budget, I would imagine, a incredible influencer playbook, who brought colostrum to the masses and really convinced consumers that this wasn't just a supplement. This is the cure-all for any ailment, for gut health, for skin health, mental health, everything. It was touted as the liquid gold, as you said. So obviously, consumers love that. A lot of people genuinely swear by colostrum. Pop off, do your thing. And it makes sense, yeah, as we said, to launch into the soda category, because as we're seeing, every single supplement that gets any kind of attention ends up in a soda these days. So like fiber, obviously in a soda, that's the Olipop Poppy movement. Actually, not really in Poppy, but that's an aside. Protein sodas, creatine sodas we've now been seeing. And now colostrum soda. It only makes sense. If it's going to be a buzzy new supplement, it's going to be in a gummy and it's going to be in a soda.
Curious what else they'll put in a soda, because everything's a soda these days.
Speaking of everything being a soda these days, do you want to...
Wait,
Lemon Perfect.
Oh my God, Lemon Perfect. Everything is a goddamn soda these days. So Yanni Hufnagel, former founder of Lemon Perfect, we should say, is launching what he's calling a soda. They're launching a sparkling water brand that is bridging soda flavor with electrolyte infused water. It's sparkling water that is flavored like soda, except one of the flavors is cotton candy. So I don't know if that's fully soda coated. But they're launching with lemon, lime, grape, orange, cotton candy, and then over the next 2 years, they're launching blue raspberry and cola. And we were talking about this before. The fact that they're not launching with cola is insane.
I think what's interesting about pop water, first of all, can we please pick another word than pop? I can't see something else named pop. I understand that pop is a synonym for soda. We don't need to call it that. You can Olipop, Poppy, Culture Pop. Like, Jesus, pick literally anything else. We can get a little bit more creative. What is interesting is that it is definitely, I actually really liked Lemon Perfect, which, if you don't know, was like a better for you lemonade, a very low sugar, ready to drink lemonade. I actually really liked it. It struggled, though, because it competed in flavored water, because it wasn't a juice. Right. It wasn't really lemonade. It was flavored water. And that category has been really squeezed between like very cheap private label versions of flavored water and the modern soda category, which is what this is. Pop water is going to be part of the modern soda category, but it's interesting because they also are kind of like hedging their bets of like, we're not exactly competing with Olipop and Poppy, because as their tagline is, it tastes like soda, hydrates like water. So this isn't the same bet of a prebiotic, probiotic soda. It is still within the modern soda category because it's this better for you soda. But instead of making the gut health claim, it's making the hydration claim, which is interesting. I am like, of course it hydrates like water because it's water. It's based with like I'm like,
all of these drinks are 99% water most of the time.
So like that feels like really interesting marketing, but it does have electrolytes in it. So I guess that's where that claim really comes from. But like hydrates like water is weird because water actually, like, you add electrolytes to water. Point being that they are going to be in the same set, but competing on a different premise than Poppy and Olipop, which could be really smart.
Right. I mean, this also does place them into this new wave of modern hydration brands, like a Leisure, like a Corpse Reviver, even like dry water, and we talked about this in the funding part of the newsletter, but wet hydration, which I still can't believe those two names I just said back to back. I think I just confused my mother, who's probably listening here. But yeah, I do think hedging their bets there is pretty smart. I do think there's a lot of people who enjoy sort of soda-esque flavors, and that's why like so many of these brands are doing so well, but they want less or no sugar. They don't want the fruit juice in it. They just want sort of the flavor and the sparkling. But the other side too is like, I think a lot of people actually don't love sparkling drinks, which I think is insane. And I think they're wrong for that opinion.
I don't love carbonation.
Yeah, I think
so
you're
careful
wrong.
what you say.
My stance still holds. I think it's crazy that people don't enjoy carbonated drinks.
All right.
That is insane.
Makes my tummy hurt.
All that to say, I do think like I'm curious to see what customer adoption will be for this brand. Obviously, Yanni he's raised a lot in the past for Lemon Perfect. He has a lot of connections. He has the industry clout, regardless of whatever happened with Lemon Perfect, him being ousted in January. We'll see what happens with this. This brand already seems to be fully funded. I've heard rumblings that they've raised a lot of money, which not a surprise. I think the way this works is you got to flood the market with this stuff, and you got to get it everywhere, and you got to get all the young people drinking this. You got to get this in all the bodegas and all the grocery stores. But I'm very curious to see what will resonate more with consumers. Will it be the hydration part? Will it be the better for you, no sugar soda part? I'm very curious to see how this will perform. I didn't see much information with the electrolyte side, but like, is this also just going to be loaded with sodium effectively? Which we don't need more sodium in drinks, or we don't. Also, I've harped on this a lot. People don't need this much electrolytes. Nobody's.
Yeah.
Whatever. Also, if I am parched, if I am post-workout and sweating, I do not want something carbonated.
No. Oh, now you don't like carbonation.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. It doesn't sound refreshing at all.
Post a 4-mile
because you can't chug it. You can't chug something carbonated.
I'm going to be ripping burps.
Burping out the wazoo.
The other side of this too is I'd be very curious to see how Liquid Death's soda-flavored sparkling subline is performing, because they have this. They have exactly this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They have cola, they have Dr. Pepper, they have a root beer, and literally I think just in the past couple, like 2 weeks, they launched grape and a Mountain Dew dupe. So again, this is not a new concept. What might be new is how they market it, how much money they've raised, their distribution channels. This is going to win more on that than I think anything else. And I'll try it soon. I'm assuming it's going to taste good. We'll see where this goes.
We need to do a whole episode on hydration beverages, because also I have some silly takes. Like, one of my silly takes, yes, we don't need this much sodium, but also I have this thought about how climate change is going to affect CPGs. And I think one of them is when it gets really hot out and we're all sweating a lot more, we actually might need more electrolytes. Anyway, teaser.
Wow, very Al Gore of you.
Thank you. An honor and a privilege.
An honor and a privilege. Shall we move on to something non-edible?
Actually, I have an anecdote about this one. This one is, so what we're going to be talking about is Luxe Laundry. There have been a lot of new cool laundry detergents coming out recently that are really on the back of the fragrance boom, and Nate is more passionate about this, so you're going to talk about it. But I did my laundry this morning using the brand Wishing Well.
Oh, we forgot to include that.
Yeah, that's okay. Using the brand Wishing Well, and Wishing Well has this product called, is it Boy Smells? No, not Boy Smells.
Boyfriend material.
Okay. And Wishing Well has this product called Boyfriend Material, which I've written about on weekly pickups before. But it's this laundry detergent that smells like boyfriend material. It smells like a really good-looking man you would hope would smell like, but never does.
It smells great. I've used it. I used it recently. It's excellent.
And as this podcast is recording, it's my clothes are in the dryer, basking in their boyfriend material. So that's my anecdote. That's not really that much of an anecdote, but
no, it's a beautiful anecdote.
And I am someone who, like, I care about scents a lot, I would say, in my like day to day. I had never thought about like what my I'm always like, I'll just buy like Gain or whatever. Like, I never thought that hard about my laundry detergent. It really is one of those up levels that does change your day-to-day a lot. So I'm excited about this news.
So the news is Lindsay Boyd, the founder of The Laundress, which started in 2004.
Crazy.
Which is crazy. This was like pre-CPG being as cool as it is now. They were acquired by Unilever back in 2019. She's getting back in the luxury laundry game that I would say she started. Like,
yes. So what's the Laundress?
So the Laundress is basically, it's kind of like a cleaner, better for you, good smelling laundry care company. They make detergents, they make other stuff around doing your laundry. And again, they were acquired by Unilever back in 2019. They were known for just clean formulas and better scents. This was before too many brands were doing it. I think in the way the Laundress did it was very interesting, that it was positioned a little bit more luxe, a little bit less crunchy. A lot of products at the time that were trying to be healthier or better for you, or maybe be a little bit different, were oftentimes a little crunchier, not really a quote unquote upgrade.
Yes.
And I think that's what made the Laundress so interesting over that time period from launch to acquisition, was that it was kind of ahead of its game in that sense. Lindsay Boyd is back. She just launched Lindry Lab, Lindry. It's another luxe laundry brand. They're launching with 17 SKUs, including 6 detergents, built around, again, clean ingredients. And I think the key thing here is, they said functional fragrance, and I think the key in that functional fragrance is fragrance. I think the big thing right now in new laundry care is the fragrance side more than anything. The efficacy, yes, I think that's sort of like they try to do that, but it's to smell good. And I think there's a couple different reasons. One, fragrance in general is booming. More broadly, people want to smell good. People want to upgrade themselves. And I think that's the other trend here. It's this concept of affordable luxury and just upgrading little things in your daily life to make yourself feel a little bit better. And the other side of this is skincare level ingredient scrutiny, and then also home as self-expression. And fragrance is also this lens of self-expression. They have scents like bergamot and all the sort of fancy scents you can imagine. But they're not alone. The movement in the laundry care space, booming. Nothing short of impressive. So there's brands like Laundry Sauce, which makes luxe smelling and looking laundry pods. They also have some other laundry care accessories as well. They just hit 300 Target stores in March, their first national retailer break after a lot of success on direct-to-consumer. Mosey Wash, they built their whole brand on TikTok around what they were calling cologne-inspired scents in these like metal jugs. Dead Cool, which is a fragrance brand, they launched laundry care within the past 5 years, and they were the first and are still the only laundry care brand at Sephora. They have laundry detergent and laundry sheets as well that all smell like some of their iconic scents. Sniff, which is another fragrance brand, they have a full laundry collection that they launched a few years ago. There's also Home Court, which is Courtney Cox's home care brand. They have laundry, and it's all around scents. But it is more expensive than a lot of your traditional Tide, All, Persil, Gain. Significantly more expensive, but not too much that it feels like you're necessarily going to go broke. It feels like this sort of affordable luxury upgrade to like just make your life a little bit better and maybe feel a little bit better on your skin.
One of the things that's really interesting in this, beyond the like home scenting component, is also it goes back to the personal fragrance component as well, in the way that they're marketing it. In the glossy article that we link out in the newsletter, Lindsay, the founder, described it as a layering component, which is a lot of the language that we're using around this idea of, we talked a lot about in this new fragrance boom, how Gen Z is building out these fragrance wardrobes where they're not just using one fragrance. That layering component of my clothes will smell like something, and then I'll layer on a body mist, and then I'll layer on a hair mist, whatever it is. It's really trendy right now. And thinking of it as like laundry really does sit at this really unique intersection of home fragrance and personal fragrance, which makes it a more justifiable spend in a lot of ways.
And you say fragrance wardrobe, literally wardrobe.
Literally wardrobe. Wow, my brain was like, yeah?
I'm so surprised you didn't clock that. But yeah.
Literally wardrobe. That's amazing.
It's literally a perfect part of your fragrance wardrobe now. We'll do a deep dive on this. I kind of want to go deep into the laundry care space. That sounds kind of fun.
It's so interesting.
I really want to talk to Jeeves. He is a laundry care influencer on TikTok
Unreal.
and Instagram. They have an Upper East Side generational iconic laundromat. My friend Dolly, who's also in the Upper East Side, she just did a like morning walkthrough with Jeeves at his facility in the Upper East Side.
That's so cool.
It's so interesting. The way he reviews laundry care products is just so like, I immediately trust what he has to say, partially because of the background of him and his family and his business, but also because of the testing he goes through for all these products, and he ranks them. So I'm only buying what he's recommending, and laundry sauce was up there, albeit it's a very expensive product compared to the rest of the stuff, but it's a pretty highly ranked thing. Yeah, laundry care is a wild space.
It's a wild space, but it's kind of fun, and I'm enjoying it.
It's really fun. Our next story and theme we want to dive into is the next generation of acne care and skincare more broadly, but acne care. There are two stories that we really want to dive into. The first one is Thayer's, which is known for their witch hazel. They just launched a hydrating milky mist. Oh, so many M's. After two different TikTok creators, Nina Poole and Shelby Ann Bell, went viral for DIYing as sprayable versions of the brand's existing milky toner product.
Yep.
And then this product, which they launched with these creators, quickly became Amazon's #1 new beauty release within 24 hours of the product page going live, which is crazy. I just love how they worked with the creators on this. It wasn't just they were seeing a trend and they kind of just did it and they're like, wait, but we did this. They worked with the creators on this.
I think a lot of brands, when they see something like a creator talking about something organically, they'll just do a collab post.
Yeah.
But for this, they took both of the creators and they actually flew them to their lab and had them be part of the creation of the product and also the photo shoot. There's still the marketing component of it. But having them be part of this actual product development piece is really smart. And we see a lot of that happening in other areas of skincare, more like this was co-developed with this kind of professional, which is equally, if not more important. But I do think that having a creator involved in this kind of way is really smart.
I think the other story we're going to talk about, the creator's also dermatologist. This is a practicing derm. But even like these creators, like they just bring so much validation. They try a lot of products, and Thayer's involving them fully in the process and giving them credit and actually coming out with a real, honest to God, net new product is such a cool thing that you really don't see a lot. To your point, it's either a freaking collab post, which is the most boring thing ever, or it's just like their like signature on the package, or it's a flavor. And like, while that's really nice and fun, this is what's exciting about this new wave of media and marketing and brands, is that you can involve other people in it. You can involve the creators. You can involve people with an audience in a way that's much more meaningful and long lasting. And you don't see brands and you don't see marketers of these brands think about the creators in this kind of way. How much power and pull these people have is insane. And part of it is just because I've looked at these people's accounts. I've never really seen them before. They just seem like themselves, and that's lovely, and people love them for that. I really hope that a lot more brands learn the right thing from this situation, which is, for the right scenario and for the right creator, of course, work with them. Do something. Thayer's can just do this. They're a big nationally sold brand. They can create a product. They can create a small test run and just sell it to a small cohort of these creators' audiences. You can get creative with it in a way that doesn't necessarily break the bank, but for a lot of these big brands, they should be testing this stuff out, especially with creators. Like we were talking earlier about Gatorade made something with Tiger Woods and it just flopped. Yeah, because Tiger Woods is just Tiger Woods. He doesn't have anything other than him being Tiger Woods. These creators have an audience. They have engagement. They have people listening to them, and they themselves are participating in all of that. They are not just existing and effectively just doing their job and happen to be famous. That is the issue with a lot of, I think, the celebrity side of things, where things fall off and where people don't really learn from, is they have to be involved. That is why a lot of creator products can work regardless of how they get set up, like Real Actives, Alex Earl's thing, her brand that is doing very well. That theoretically will continue to work because she is the face, she is involved with it. Whether or not it was brought to her after the idea was already established is kind of irrelevant at this point. She is the brand and she can do a lot for that product, and creators and talent can do a lot. So I think there's a lot of good learnings to have from this scenario, and I pray brands learn the right thing from this.
One of the things we said in the newsletter is the best product research that's going on is happening in public.
Yeah.
Like all of the data that you don't have to run all of the, I mean, you should also separately run consumer research, but there's so much natural consumer research going on. If you have a great social listening team, you'll find it.
Yeah.
And not only are these people like, not only are these creators naturally promoting something, but they also are starting discussions with consumers in a way that brands just can't.
Right.
People don't talk to brands the way they talk to creators.
No, and there's less weight too for a lot of these people talking about the products out there, either in the comments or in their own videos, because there's no association. They don't really care. They see the brands, big or small, as just big entities that are doing a thing, that are taking money and giving you a thing for that money. It takes a lot of the weight off of feedback and insights. Obviously, there's plenty of influencers and people who like want to get paid by the brands and whatever, but there's more people who just were like, yeah, this is stupid. Yeah, this didn't work well. Yeah, I didn't really love this. And it's very interesting to see what people are saying. Like, you can get mad at it all you want, but these are the people paying your bills and can also help you change the products for the better or create new ones.
Yeah, that's exciting to see.
And that is all we got for you today. Thanks to Stacey from Chomps for the lovely conversation. We love a good meat stick.
You love a good meat stick.
I love a good meat stick. Num, 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 num. God damn. If you haven't yet, please follow this podcast, leave a review, leave a 5-star review, especially because you love us. Fill out the Google form if you haven't, or email us with your feedback on this podcast on Express Checkout, and follow us on Instagram at Express Checkout. And we will catch you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.